Welcome to the Launch Author Reveal, a talk show where we go between the pages of the book, behind the words, and right into the heart of the author who penned them for the intimate reveal of the book's backstory. Book lovers get great reads and giveaways, and authors get revealed during Q&A. Now, here's the Launch Author Reveal host, Michelle Chudy.
Hi everyone, this is Michelle Chudy. Welcome to the Launch Author Reveal. I am so excited to have you back today. We are live and Happy New Year. So I have something very special for you today. I have something because you guys know that have been following us that we take you between the pages, behind the cover, into the heart of the author. And not only do I have one author for you, I have 8. We are here today to help those that feel called to write actually delve into the process. So as you are like investigating, kicking the tires, and just going out to see if you are truly an author, I want you to tap into the journey of these authors that I'm bringing before you. These are trailblazers. They are people that have gone down the beaten path of publishing. They are seasoned authors, they're bestsellers, and I have a great mix for everyone. So as you're getting settled in, I want you guys to, one, take advantage of the fact that this is live. If you are on Facebook, leave your name and email in the comments because we have gifts galore. We have everything from free books to master classes to strategy sessions to help, with the coaching piece of this, that everyone's going to get an opportunity to win. And then on top of that, you also, on Zoom, you get access via your registration. So everyone who's watching today that provides their contact information, we're going to give you the opportunity to dig in deep with these authors. So, all right, so authors, once you come on, turn your cameras on, let's get at this and let's get to it and take them down the path of publishing and what it was like for your journey. So if you are on Zoom, let me just give you the lay of the land here. First of all, thanks for registering and getting in on the game as far as the webinar is concerned. But there are comments that you can make in the chat feature. So leave us your name, where you're signing in from. That way I can tell you and everyone else that is on here who's in, what you're asking about. I will moderate. I will ask these awesome authors your questions. So, and then also set your settings to panelists and all attendees. That way everyone can see. But I want to give a quick introduction so you guys know who all is in here from your author panel. And you are going to realize that you're surrounded by not only great writers, but they're just awesome people. So we have Susan Bafford. She is the author of From Victim to Victorious in that transformation process. And her book is just so amazing. She talks about her backstory in one of our post reveals, so catch that on my business page. And then we have the wonderful Stephanie Winslow, and she has just recently released her book called Ascent to Hope. And if you are struggling, or anyone is struggling with any form of addiction, and that's everything from substance abuse to control issues, you got to get her book. It's fantastic. Then we have Tammy Coleman. Tammy is the author of Hello is My Friend, and she is also in the middle of publishing her next book, so she'll be out with that soon. And then we have our best-selling author, Karina Kong, Train for Joy. This book read my mail and then some. So Karina is up and she is into the zone of training and helping people in the success area of their life. And then I have Michelle Jones, who is tired of being stuck best-selling author. And she has done so many great things with that book and is still using that to help people get out of being stuck in their life and coaching them forward. We have Cynthia Brewer, who is a wonderful friend of mine. I love Cynthia. She actually has written The Jewels in My Crown and talks about identity. And then we have Kim Thomas. She is a new best-selling author. And she has her book, Me, Myself, and You. And she is on and going to talk about her process as well. And then we have, last but not least, the one and only Dara Texera. She has Crushing Your Cravings. She is a body talk expert. She helps you understand the communication of your body and how to basically walk in a life that you love. You know, you want to live more and diet less, right? So that's what Dareth is about. So those are your authors, and this is my panel of powerhouse authors that are going to take you through this writing journey. So I want to see who all signing in today. And if you are on Facebook, you guys, again, leave comments. I'm going to, you know, address both of y'all. But we have Sierra in here, and we have Reva, and let's see who else is in here. Lisa's coming in as well from Alexandria, and we have Linda Moore on. I love, love, love how we are just bringing people in from across the country. So who else is in here too? It looks like, is it McKinney? I hope I'm saying your name right. I always think that I'm getting these names wrong. So if I'm correcting or not correct, you can always put the phonetics down there for me too. Larry's back on as well. So glad to see you back on, Larry. And also our winners. Okay, so let's queue up this panel. So if you have questions as well, put them in the chat. That way I can get them up before these awesome authors. So I want to kick off this journey today by asking them some questions that I've written for them. Some of them they know about, some of them I'm just going to spring them on them so I keep them on their toes. Yeah, I know. Say thanks a lot, Michelle, right? Okay, so I want to ask you guys, you know, why did you publish? You know, do you feel that you were actually called to write? So Stephanie, why don't you answer that one first out the gate so we have a little bit of order, you know, starting out. You know, do you feel that you were actually called?
Most definitely. I feel that I was called, to be quite honest. This is not ever something I thought I would do. I never saw myself as an author or really anybody who other people would listen to or that I had much of a story to tell. But then, you know, as God does, he shows up in crazy ways and takes us to places where we have to depend and rely on him. So, yes, the short answer is yes, for sure. It was definitely a calling.
Okay, so what's your why behind publishing? Because, you know, for those that have caught your reveal, they know how powerful your story is. But we all have, you know, something in our life that, you know, has changed our lives, has impacted us and changed us as a person. But what was your why to actually put that on paper and bring that forward to a public scenario?
Yeah, you know, obviously in our nation and around the world, there's a lot of people struggling with substance abuse of all kinds. But as you mentioned at the beginning, Michelle, that it's not just about the addicted person, it's about the family that's impacted around them. And as a family member of somebody who really struggled, I found myself in a similar. I would cast judgment at him, and I would look at myself and say, you know, I'm not much different. I have my own issues. I have addictions to things like control, and so it's not a substance that I can remove. It's a part of me and who I am and my depravity, and so I have to walk through the process of giving it over to God on a daily basis. And so the book is really an effort to help families who are struggling with someone who in your life who might be addicted, but also dealing with all of those emotions and things that come up as the family member, and how to resolve and move forward in them.
That's awesome. So let me ask you this, everyone that's on the panel, who actually felt called to write before they actually wrote their book? You know, you actually saw yourself as an author before you actually started the journey. How many out of you actually saw that? Okay, so Dareth did. Susan did. Tammy, you did as well?
I did not.
Okay, so Michelle did not. Okay, what about the rest of you?
I did.
Tim, you did? You saw yourself as an author?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
I
Rena
saw
did.
myself with words, not as an author.
Okay. Okay, that's good to know, because, you know, one of the things I think that's intriguing to me is that there's authors that don't feel like they're authors even when they've published, and there's people that feel like they're authors even though they haven't written the book. So it's kind of like, is it, the book before the author or the author before the book? Where are you in that journey in your identity? And so that to me is important, that when you're writing or getting ready to write, or you feel called to write, that obviously you can see that there's people sitting before you that they've published their authors, and not all of them felt called to write, and they didn't always see themselves as an author. So I just wanted to encourage you that if you feel like you're called to write, that you can start off from any scenario. So how did you decide on what you're going to write about? Who wants to take that one?
I would,
Okay, Dareth, what did you do?
Okay, so can I address just really shortly the answer of calling to write, but that I never did write?
I would love for you to do that.
Okay, so I felt at a very young age that I was called to write, and that's what I wanted to do. And I pictured myself as an author, and that's what I wanted to do. I got into high school. I had a teacher, took a writing class that kind of said, you don't know how to write, basically. Shut it down. Shut it down. I was not going to write. So even though years ago I felt called to write, I had shut it down to such an extent that I was convinced it was a dream that was delusional because I didn't have the skill to do it. So I wanted to address that a little bit. We can kind of be both, called, but then frozen and not feel called. And then the reason I chose to write in the field that I am in with the body talk expert has to do not only with my journey with struggling with understanding how I was created, spirit, soul, and body, and how it talks, and also my daughter. I also have a daughter who is recovered from bulimia, an eating disorder, and she was very disconnected, obviously. And so seeing that whole journey that we went through as a family just brought the realization that it's not just people who struggle with eating disorders that don't understand what's happening. It's the majority of us. So seeing her recover and just wanting everybody to live a life of freedom was my why on where I'm at. And the why I pushed through my fear and did the writing was actually my granddaughter who our family lost at 8 months old. And she fought every single day of her life. She never left the NICU. And when Abby went on to her happily ever after, it was this thing that dropped within me, like, how dare me not fight for what I'm really called to do when it's kind of easy for me. She fought for every single breath. And I'm not fighting for breath. I'm just fighting through fears and mindsets. And it just sparked it in me that I wasn't going to do that with my life anymore.
That's so powerful. I think everyone has a powerful why behind why they actually push through. But, that actually makes mine feel very small. But, but everyone's why is their why. Who else has like a why that pushed you over the edge? Because obviously Dareth and I are friends as well. And she is an international best-selling author. And it makes me angry that somebody told her that she is not able to write. I love reading her stuff. I love reading her social media. And I think it's a shame that we don't realize the power of our words, that we speak something over somebody else that could be a roadblock to what God has called them to do. So I'm glad you pushed through that, Dareth, and you actually broke through, because look at the people that you're helping today as a result of that. So who else has a why that drove them over the edge to publish?
I want to add to that. So I didn't dream as a little girl, I'm going to be a writer and an author. Because many times, I believe that God has put such potential inside of us. We don't know it until he puts that squeeze upon us of what's inside. And so for me, in my journey, it was through God healing me through the brokenness of our marriage, being restored back to him in the church, as a leader in the church, and being brought back through all those things that God said, Michelle, you're going to write that, what I have done in your life, so that I get glory from your story. And I frankly said, God, I don't want to do that. And that was with my first book 10 years ago. And God took that book, and unbeknownst to me, because of course it wasn't in my dream or plan, but he took that across the country to minister to women who've gone through every form of abuse, especially women in the church, with their husbands. And so, again, it wasn't my dream, but it was the Lord's. And then as I look back, I can see, just even as a little girl, and I even posted something today with some of the folks that I work with, is to ask them, who are the mentors in your life? Who are the mentors as you look back, because January is Mentors Month, Mentorship Month, and to appreciate it. And so I've sent messages to those who are still alive who poured into me as a little girl. But one in particular, two or three in particular, when I was a little girl, they would always say, you have a gift with words. You have a gift with words. And that was always on my report card as a little girl. She has a gift with words. And so to see 40, 50 years later, how God used the spoken word to become the written word, to share that, to encourage other people in their journey. So that's how I want to encourage people. You may not see it now, but God knows the potential that he has inside of you for you to write what he's doing in your life.
Great word, Michelle. That's something that I had talked about yesterday with one of my coaching groups, that you have to decide that if it helps just one person, that it's worth it. That it's worth every bit of pain and suffering that you've gone through, because writing is not a quick done deal. It is a journey, and it's a marathon. So if you're a sprinter, this is a race that you need to be prepared to just like invest in. Mm-hmm. So Rena, you had your hand up for another, why? What was your why?
So when other people are talking about they didn't feel called to write, but later on they feel called to write, I just want to share a little story about myself. Actually, I am a non-native speaker, but I live in the US and I live in the San Francisco Bay Area. So there are so many technologists and scientists here, and they graduate from very good school, but they told me, you cannot write because you are not a native speaker. We can only code. We can only be technologists or scientists. We cannot write. We cannot be a speaker. And I was quite upset about what people talk about that, because you limit yourself. You can write, you can speak, but since you have so many people around you talking to you like this, you shrink back and you think, oh, maybe they are right. Maybe I should not write. Maybe I should not speak. But I think after I wrote that book, or after I had an idea of writing the book to break the 5 toxic beliefs that hold you back from success, and I didn't want to publish the book because I thought, so my friends are going to know what I think. I don't want them to know what I think, because they never know what I think. And after I published the book, and it's a very interesting scenario, they disappear. I don't know what it means. Maybe the message, they don't like the message, or they don't want to tell me they don't like the message, or they are reflecting about their lives and the toxic belief they have. I just find it interesting, so I want to tell this story.
I love that you told that story, because I know everyone's stories here that are on this panel, because I've hosted their reveal and have had the privilege of have that seated position at the table with them. And I can go across the panel and I could call out each and every one of them who they have had to overcome people that have said things against that their gifts or them as a person. I mean, Susan, with her story, she was voted the most likely not to succeed. And it's like, I know these people as movers and shakers in the kingdom, and, very accomplished people. So I look at it as I'm hearing your whys, that one, that there were words that were used against you, there were words that were used for you, and that words have power. And as authors, we have the ability to wield that power and use it, for good or for bad, and also, with our mouth as well. So I just want to rally ourselves up as human beings to remember to be kind, to be loving, and to do what's right, even when you put it on paper. It's one thing when you speak it, it's out there eternally just because you're releasing the power of the spoken word. But, temporarily, when you're in this flesh suit, you're actually writing it. It is listed on paper, and it's eternal while it's on this side of the atmosphere. So let me go down the panel here, and as I'm seeing you, and as long as you don't shift on this screen, I want you guys just to unmute yourself and briefly answer this question, because I want people to know what it took for you to get your book out. So what was the greatest obstacle for you to overcome?
The greatest obstacle for me with the first one, which is your call to freedom, was really, God, is this really you? So just getting through that mindset that God has called you to do this project, to release it, and then to walk through the mechanics. So, and I was challenged with going the traditional route with a publisher or self-publishing. And frankly, for me, as a believer, and what I believe in from the Word of God is, as I did the research, I said, wow, I don't want this message to be limited, to be censored, or to be watered down. And so God led me down the path of self-publishing. And it was in that process of really trusting God with the story that was being told, because you're literally laying your life out there, the pain, the anguish, the humiliation, the shame, the things that God has walked us through. You're laying it out there, but to know that it's for greater good, to impact other people. So so I went through the self-publishing route, and it was a journey, and having folks edit it and go along the journey with me. And they were the ones along the way who validated the story. They said, wow, Michelle, this is powerful. I didn't know this was happening to you. I didn't know you were experiencing this, because it looked like you have it all together. They said, I had no idea you guys were going through such pain. And but that's the power of God, that He heals us, restores us, and then He shows us the process to move forward. So I want to encourage people to weigh that out based on the story that you're sharing. Do you want it edited? Do you want it trimmed down? Or do you want to stay true to what has been spoken to you? So that's the path that I took.
Okay. So what about everyone else? What were your obstacles that you had to overcome, or your main one?
And my main one, and this is Kim speaking, I have found a little bit of my story in everyone that's spoken so far. But I think the underlying, the scary part of it is I was telling from the inside out who I was. And my fear was, after people read my book, that they wouldn't like me anymore, because they would realize how messed up I was, and still am. But I had to tell it, because my goal, my passion, all of my life has been to help people find out who they are. And then I realized I didn't know who I was. So it became a journey of revealing myself, which was awesome, just to uncover where I came from and how I am who I am. And then to realize that there are steps that I have to know and love myself first. My book, Me, Myself, and You, says that I've got to get myself right before I can talk to you and fully accept you. And I believe that in the communities that exist, that we have to be able to say to other people, I can hear you because I don't have to talk all the time, because I'm confident in who I am. So it was a big process, and it was a word that I had to put out. I didn't think I was an author, but I had to put the word out.
Okay. Yeah, and that makes perfect sense. All right. Who else? What was your biggest obstacle?
I have to agree with Michelle and Kim both. Revealing all that we've gone through in our lives, that's a tough thing to lay it out there for the public to read, and it's terrifying in a sense. But then you have to come to the realization that you don't want anybody else to have to go through what you did. And where I wrote about my marriage and how we were separated, and the time that I tried to commit suicide, if that'll stop one person from, leaving their husband or committing suicide, then it's all worth it to reveal all that I've gone through.
That just makes my heart just like, oh, I can't even imagine having a world without you. It's like, it's like, I'm just like so glad that that you pushed through, and then also that you did write, because her book is so beautiful. I mean, everything from the cover to every word that is like dripping with sincerity, and to help you, to give you a hand out of that pit. So Cynthia, I just want to give you a hug through the camera. So how about the other ones that haven't given their obstacles? What was your greatest obstacle?
I think my biggest obstacle was dealing with technology. Technology is not really what I like to do at all. But I can also relate to everybody else is putting my story out there, because when people read it, people that know me, that read my story, they're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that you went through all that. Because, we wear masks and we put on hats and we plug through with all this stuff that's going on, inside of here. So technology was really, really hard for me. But when God told me to write the book, my aunt had given me a journal after my mom had passed away. And I was writing in the journal, and I realized that I wrote that I was going to write a book about my story. And I've spoken from stage and told my story from stage many times to women's groups and small groups and stuff. And so telling it, I had already kind of come through that hurdle a little bit, but writing it was a whole other gig, because like Michelle said, I was voted most likely not to succeed and had all these horrible labels. So who am I to think I could write a book when I had dyslexia? I'd never even really read a book till after I was 28 years old. So, life is messy. And that's why these stories and each author is so unique, because we're reaching out to those women that need hand out.
That is awesome. And what I love about having you all on here, you literally are representing the garden of the Lord, and you're all beautiful in your unique way. And we each have pieces and parts of things where we were affirmed and we were also denied, but also where we've limited ourselves. And I have a question as well, that Cynthia's book is actually called The Jewels in My Crown. So you have a question about the title for that. But yeah, Susan, I'm glad you pressed through and that you didn't allow tech to actually hinder you, because your story is amazing. And I have the privilege of seeing you come through and know you on the other side, and to actually know what your backstory is just amazing. But who else there? What's your obstacles? Or what was your greatest?
I think for me, the biggest obstacle was, yes, submitting to the call, and recognizing that I didn't have the tools or the gifts or the know-how to move forward, but trusting that God would open those doors for me, especially being a control, get her done kind of person. Not knowing what's coming down the road was really scary. But then also with the outcome of the book, my mind is, okay, well, I'm putting in all this time writing and laying my heart out here, and I had to be okay and get to the point with, if my writing was only for me and my healing, then so be it. And to release that over to God, to let Him take care of the rest, and not be worried about the productivity of the book, so to speak, and just really, I think, Michelle, you touched on it earlier, just let God receive the glory for it.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, you're right. I'm looking at all these answers and they all vary. And it's amazing how it's not a consistent obstacle. So who hasn't given me their obstacle yet? Dareth, what was yours?
Yeah, my biggest, I kind of touched on it a little bit, was just, I honestly didn't feel worthy or qualified to write a book, or to even go deeper than that. I didn't feel like I had a story worth telling. Like who wants to hear my story? I mean, and the book's peppered with with my stories, but that was a big piece. And then what if I put my stories out there? Because every author's, whatever they're doing, fiction or nonfiction, they're pouring their heart into it, and nobody receives it. And that voice in my head constantly, you're not a writer, you're not a writer. And I would go, this is so true. I don't even know what I'm doing. How do you do chapters? How, just even the mechanics of it would start to cripple me, and I'd hear that voice over and over again in my head. So pushing past, just saying, okay, Lord, I'm trusting you. I'm going to sit, and it doesn't matter if anybody wants my story. Like, I had to get past looking for what people would say and really just do it for the glory of God, because he told me to do it, and I'm going to do it, and trust and push past.
That's awesome. And I'm serious. I really do get upset when I think about a person telling Derek that she can't write. And if you want to laugh and learn at the same time, get a hold of her book, Crushing Your Cravings. And I have a question. What was Susan's book title? It's Transformed from Victim to Victorious. You want to talk about a journey to where she's at today? She had a broken road, and I look at it this way. She is an overcomer, and she is truly victorious. And I had the privilege of reading her book as well, and you're going to love it. So, okay, so who else needs to give me their obstacle? Because I want people to understand, if you are even thinking just a smidge that you are called to write and that there's a book in you, and I personally believe that there's a book in everyone, that these obstacles are all different. So I don't think there's really one out there that you can stand on, but I want you to hear them all out of the author's mouth, what they actually had to go through. So who else needs to give me an obstacle? Tammy and Rena?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
And hearing everybody's story, I think we all have a similar genre in the fact that we've overcome something or some things in our lives to get us to where we are, because God was preparing us at a very young age, especially I think I always told people I was going to write a book, and I just didn't know when it was going to happen. I didn't know what it was going to be about. And it came out a little different than what I thought, but it was truly a way of healing for me, because I was hiding behind myself. I was a runner. If you read my book, there's going to be a lot of running in it. And physically, I was a runner, but that's not the reason. But you know what? I had to heal, because I'm a generational breaker in my family. And when you're a generational breaker, it's not easy to go through those obstacles and still keep going. So somebody has to break it. So my why is for my family and the family and generations to come to know that God is real. That God is real. He's not just out there doing hocus pocus, but he's real. And so I think that was the beginning of my book. My second book is coming out, actually in processing right now. And it's still about healing. It's still that same healing thing. I'm still healing in a different way though. And so it's so great to see people like you guys put your stories out there, because someone needs it. Someone needs it, and you just don't know who God has planned for that story. So keep writing, because you guys are amazing.
Thank you for encouraging everyone too. And I am glad that you are stubborn in a good way, and to see that you're just tenacious for your freedom, and we're kind of working through and pressing in for that. Serena, what was your greatest obstacle?
I have a unique obstacle. I have too many ideas. And this is my strength. And one of my top strengths is ideation. So I have a lot of book ideas. I have 5 book ideas or even more on my computer. And to choose the right idea and the right story to tell and the right message to share, you really need to seek the heart of God. What's your season right now? Who are you going to reach? How are you going to help the people? And why are you writing that? So for those of you who are like me, have too many ideas, too many book ideas, and you have a hard time choosing the right one, and you really need to seek the heart of God, what he wants you to do in this season.
Great answer. Great answer. So I hope this helped to paint the palette of obstacles for everyone that are sitting on the non-published side, non-writing side of the book that's within you. And I will tell you, for those, as Rena's like ratting herself out on her restriction of having too many ideas, I have the strength of having to figure things out and, basically mapping it out. I had investigated, took all this time researching the process, that I was so frustrated and wore myself out in trying to understand the process that I never wrote. And it was almost like, what's the point anyway? To get published, you have to be published. I have to know someone. I don't know anyone. And then once I got past all of that and I was actually writing, my biggest obstacles when it came to actually going or saying yes to the publisher was fear of exposure, because I felt like I was standing naked in front of the entire world. And then I had to get over the voice of man, because I had people that told me not to publish because they didn't feel that I was healed enough. You're not this, you're not that enough. But I had God telling me to write. So, that was another part of it. And also, there's the pride issue, because you're exposing yourself. There's the selfishness piece of it, as far as like, you want to keep things to yourself instead of sharing your healing with others. But I had such Holy Spirit conviction on, if I didn't share my story, I was robbing somebody else of their healing. So that was my why. And then my ultimate why was, I didn't want to be like the story of the 10 lepers where Jesus healed them, that there was only one that came back to say thank you. And it was my way of saying thank you to him. And truly for me to say yes and cross over into the published world was the fact that, I had to do it for just one. Jesus would have died on the cross for just one. I had to come to that decision. And since The Battle of Surrender, which was my first book, I've published 3 thus far. That's our family testimony. It's, primarily it's my journal entries through my healing and, the whole mess of like working through all that. But I had to come to the decision that it was worth, if it helped just one person. It didn't matter if I sold, just one copy, that it would have been worth it. So I want to talk about the misery of the journey, because it's not all fun and games. We want to be completely transparent here. These are people that have splinters in their forehead from gate breaking for their first and then multiple times. You have to be tenacious, and you're going to grow weary, and there's times that you're going to want to quit. So let me tap into the misery. What was the most miserable experience for you on this journey? And I'm going to lead with mine just real quickly, because I want you guys to have like full, bandwidth here. Mine was, I was in corporate chaos at the same time I was publishing my first book, and I had to balance the time with all of my other responsibilities that were very demanding. And I always felt like I was behind on deadlines. I was behind on everything. I had tremendous pressure, thinking I was going to miss my mark. So what was some misery that you guys actually experienced?
That's a good one. It actually tied into the first question too, obstacles. So on the first book, the first go around was similar to yours, Michelle, was time, saying, God, how am I going to have the time to do what you told me to do? But in prayer, he said to me, he said, Michelle, I'm the one who gives you time. You're on my time. So I will show you how to readjust and reorder some things. And that took a year. It was a year of sitting down at the dining room table and sharing my heart with dear girlfriends and prayer partners who had walked us through, and my pastors and so forth. And they would literally pray and check in with me every few days. Did you write? Did you write? Did you write? So that was a miserable thing to go through, but they were just like squeezing me through this pipeline to make sure motion was going. And then in the second one, with Tired of Being Stuck, the biggest one there was distractions. Because that book was written 10 years later at a different phase of the journey of life, where God is saying, now you've raised up other people, show them how to do that with others. And so he was expanding the story. And so I had responsibilities at church, responsibilities in the community, family, so forth, all those things going on. A nonprofit, which God was shifting and morphing to take to a new dimension, all those things. But still, he said, you need to sit down. So the struggle was with the flesh saying, but I got to do this, got to do that. But the Spirit of God saying inside, shh, sit down. So I felt like one of those kids who was homesick, watching all the kids play outside while Well, I was indoors sitting and writing, and but the fruit of it, bared itself 6 months later. So that's what I want to encourage people. If you're in that season where you feel like you're living in your bathrobe, living in jeans and a t-shirt, just sit and write, it's okay, because God is going to move you through onto the other side. And many of those friends who prayed me through in the second one, they wanted to write books too. And they've said to me, they said, wow, Michelle, you used those 6 months to do something. I've been still talking about it for 6 months. So again, the fruit is born out in what we do. So I just want to encourage people, the distractions will come, but God will give us the grace to stay focused.
Great word there. And I just want to tell you that you have an accolade here. McKinney said that she needed to hear that, because sometimes with 5 children, as a homeschooling mother, time is a precious commodity. And I think sanity might be a precious commodity too, McKinney. I only have 2, and it's like they keep me hopping. And also, hey, if you guys are on Facebook, I see people are watching over as well. Leave your comments, because I am literally watching, and I will ask your questions to the panelists. And also, if you're on Facebook, and if you want to get in on the giveaways, everyone's going to get a free book, at least 2 free books. There are strategy sessions that coaches are offering that are crossover, authors and coaches. There's also a master class for with Karina that you can get in on. She's giving everyone a free pass, but we have to be able to contact you, especially on Facebook. So leave your name and email, and if you don't feel comfortable in the comments, you can message my page. But I wanted to put that out there too, and of course, everyone on the webinar, where you're going to be entered in. So, Michelle, thank you for sharing that as far as the misery on that. What else? Who else actually had some time constraints or just the miserable part of it?
Yeah, for me, it was a combination of both. Like Michelle, life can it just comes at you. It's going to keep coming no matter what you're doing, no matter what you're called to do. And so I get in this season where I'm still doing outside things and all these other things pulling on you, but you have to do this. So for my personality, very A-type, where I just want to sit down, get it done, and to be pulled, knowing you have these deadlines, knowing you need to do this, knowing you need to sit down and write, and finding the balance was a big thing for me, because I would be able to go and sit and block out life. Like, forget everything, forget relationships, just let me do this. And, that's not going to work very well. So finding that balance. And then another thing, honestly, to be real, was the writer's block. Having my time okay, I have my time scheduled, because I would literally schedule my time in to fit it in to help me find balance, and open up my laptop and stare at it and not know even how to start the first sentence sometimes. And then just being able to be okay with that. And because, like I said, once again, my personality wants to get it done. I'm not used to not feeling productive, sitting there staring, and learning how to work through that. And how do I get through writer's block? How do I keep on going when you're ready to just go, this isn't working, it's not coming together the way I want it to? How much do I put in? How much do I not? And that was tough for my personality. And then at the end, the misery of self-publishing, figuring out all the pieces.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a second while we have time, because that's important, because there are people that are blend here, traditional published, and I've done both veins as far as like the traditional and then also the self-publishing, and they each have their own little animal assigned to it that is not very fun. But, I also want to follow along with what was said between Michelle and Dareth about the time constraints too. For those of you that are struggling, you don't have time, you just first need to commit in your mind that you're going to write your book and that you're going to get it done. Because if you come at it double-minded, you're not going to finish. It's going to be something that's always going to be like an albatross tied to your neck. And it can be heavy at times, especially if it's something that you've been appointed to write. But promise yourself that you're going to do little by little. I had to literally go into the mindset that I was going to do a paragraph a day. And as long as I wrote at least a paragraph a day, then I knew I was making forward progress. So we call it poco poco in Texas, that little by little, that is something that you just need to do. And you just have to commit to take one destiny step forward a day. And do you get one sentence done and not a paragraph? That's more than nothing. So
Yeah.
what about somebody else's misery out there? I want to like tap into it so people understand that, this is not for the faint of heart, but it's for those that are called and appointed.
Okay.
Cynthia, what you got going on? I'm sorry, Tammy.
I would say my first book was 3 years of the writing. And so I'm the type of person that likes to get in and get things done. So it was difficult because I had to stop. This is going to be opposite. So people that might fall into this category is God may stop you and say, okay, hang on a minute. You're not ready for the next part, especially if it's a very deep healing part. If you're going through some major deep healing, he may not have you go through everything all at once so that you don't have a meltdown. But I wrote as I went, and he took me through different stages. So listen to what the Holy Spirit and God is telling you when and where to write. The second book that I'm just getting ready to complete took me 3 months. So it's a different type of book, and I'm a different place. So it just, I think, depends on what you're writing about and where you are in your journey. So remember, you can go either slow or fast depending on what's happening. I mean, it took me 3 years to write the first, because if I'd have written it, I probably would not have, if I'd had to go through it, I wouldn't have written it, because I didn't want to deal with some of the pain. I had to step away from the pain because it was so painful. And so just for people that might feel that, come on them, don't get discouraged, because God put me in places where he knew that was going to fast forward. I was in 2 different coaching, one being Kingdom Builders, and the other one was another coaching that had a deadline that we were trying to meet. I was pushing through it, but it wasn't time yet, but at least it got me writing more. And then when I got into Kingdom Builders is where it pushed forward, and that's really where he put me in momentum. So I think it's a very, very strategic thing with God, and you just have to follow along to hear what he has to say for you. That would be my input.
Okay, Cynthia, you said you have one that you wanted to share.
Yeah, just real quick. I went self-publishing, and I went into it not knowing anything and where to begin or anything. And it was real difficult for me, because sometimes in self-publishing, they're all about the amount of people that they want to get hooked up with them to, put out these books. And so I was like, my coach that I had never spent the time that I needed. I was always felt like I was left out in the dark. She had 150 clients, and I was one of them. And so it was like a paper mail kind of thing. And it was very difficult for me because I didn't know the first thing about it or even what questions to ask. So I just want to say to those that are thinking about writing is really research out which avenue to go, whether you want to do self-publishing or a regular publishing company, and research and get some good feedback. Because I didn't even know any other authors at the time either. So I was unable to consult with anybody either. So that made it very difficult.
Oh, that's good to know. Okay, let's talk about this journey as far as like going through, the concept to the actual, you have a book in hand. Because I can tell you that I felt like an author when I had that manuscript printed and in my hand. It was part of like the editing process. I went traditional the first book, and I self-published the next 2. And what's interesting is I hit bestseller status with the self-published 2, and I didn't with the first one. But that's, just want to throw that out there. But you learn some things along the way as far as like what works and what doesn't. And what I actually found that no matter what you do, is that the marketing is always on you. Whether you're with a traditional publisher or you're with, yourself, you still have to market your own book, and you have to be savvy with that. So that was an eye-opener for me. I really thought that with a publisher that I would be hooked up and, everything would be out. I was blessed for the fact that I do marketing for career, but I was also disappointed with the fact that a lot of that stuff didn't happen, because, you work hard to birth that baby that you on paper, and now you have to like raise it up. So what were some of the challenges during the publishing process for each of you that you want to talk about today? Was it the editing? Was it the proofreading? Where did you find that it was like really hard or interesting for you?
Michelle, this is Kim, and I'd like to say that for me, because you were my coach through it, there was a great deal of help for the questions that I had, because it was so scary, and technology is not always my friend. It's becoming my friend, but it's not always. And so having you there in the background as my coach, and being able to answer those questions that I needed. The struggle was when you would say something to me, I wouldn't always understand it. So I spent quite a bit of time. I remember just sitting for a week trying to decide categories to put my book in, and things like that. I didn't quite understand. So that process was hard. But boy, having that background of you just was amazing. Amazing.
I love you, Kim. Thank you. You know what? I want you to know that category selection, I sat there and stewed over that too. It's not easy. When you have like a million options to pick from, which three do you choose to, you know, to put your book into? Because there really is mechanics that are important when it comes to publishing. And a lot of us came in, we didn't know. You don't know until you go through the journey, and then they change what it looks like. But thank you for sharing that. So who else wants to talk about, you know, the process from start to finish, you know, what the mechanics were for you and what you found surprising and difficult? A quiet panel.
Okay.
I'll go. One of the things that I had to learn was, how do I put the book together best? Like, you would hear all different authors kind of have their own way of doing it. Some write it on paper, some put up their computer screen, some have their chapters all separated, you know, out, and when they write wherever they're meant to go, type of thing. And figuring out what helped keep me in the flow and the way it worked for me. Once I found it was amazing, which for me, it was note cards. Just those good old-fashioned note cards, because thoughts would come during the day, just like, I'm not writing right now, but this amazing sentence or thought would come, and I could just write it really, really quick. And I would have this pile when I'd go sit that I could sift through, sort, put in order. And that's really when I never had writer's block again. Once I started that process, it worked for me, but everybody, something else works 100% different. And then the second part that was the hardest to navigate.
Dareth, can I pause you right there for a second? Yeah. Y'all are taking notes. You need to star what she just said, because she just gave you a golden nugget of wisdom that if you're having writer's block issues, Dareth is tactile. She's one that has to have something in hand that helped to free her from the blocking of her writing. So make sure you guys capture that, because this is to help you guys launch into authorship, and I don't want you to miss out on anything. So sorry, Dareth, what was your second one?
The marketing, which once again, I was very thankful to have Michelle help me with that, and being able to ask her questions where she could put me on the right path and what to do was a godsend that I'm forever grateful for.
I love you guys. And I wanted to throw out the disclaimer, I was not a book marketer. I was a traditional marketer, you know, in corporate, and marketed multiple products, but book marketing was new for me too. So a lot of this we journeyed together, but I thank you for that. I was glad I was able to help. So what were some other miseries there? Because I'm looking that we are actually getting some interaction here as far as on the chat and also on Facebook. Y'all on Facebook, if you want in on these giveaways, please make sure that you leave your email on so we can get in touch with you. They're giving away books, they're giving away strategy sessions, and then also masterclass opportunities. So want to really help you all out by tapping into these authors. So Rena, what'd you have as far as like you ran into?
So I am a recovering perfectionist, and in my book I talk about a toxic belief. Being a perfectionist sometimes does not work well. So I hire fivers to help me to format the book and with some technology stuff. But I hate the fonts, and I hate the font family. But the timeline was so tight, and I was not able to ask the vendor to change that. And then I thought, well, maybe I shouldn't publish the paperback because I really don't like the font. It does not represent the idea well. And the vendor is actually in Pakistan. So it's very hard to get in touch with him during the day. So I have to get in touch with him at night before I go to sleep. And then I have to hold back. And then I said, okay, that's okay. The fonts are not perfect. The layout is not perfect. Things are not perfect, but that's good enough. Just push that out.
That's right.
You have to say no to that perfectionist tendency.
Wow, that's, I love that we are coming at this from all angles, because we truly have to see ourselves and our strengths and our shortcomings. Even our strengths can work against us, but there's really not any excuse to press forward if you know that there's a book in you. Because we are actually getting close to the top of the hour. So if you are on Facebook, leave your email if you want in on the giveaways. And of course, share this with your friends. That way people can see it too. And if you guys are on the webinar, we have you covered, taken care of. But as we're getting to the top of the hour, I need to ask this question to you all. First of all, did you feel prepared to publish even when you had your book written? Do you think that you're like ready to rock and roll? And then also, I want you to share if you had somebody that has always said they felt like they had to write a book and that they were supposed to write a book, but they just not have taken the time to do it yet, and they've been talking about it for years. What would you say to them?
Well, I would say, the first one is when it was time to go, and after pressing the button go and release, I felt like a woman who was 9 months pregnant. My ankles were swollen and I couldn't get off the couch. I needed it to get out. Just go. And so I was excited, and we actually had a celebration and a launch party at my church to commemorate the milestone that it was done and out there and had made bestseller status. And again, Michelle Chudy was part of that process and just helping to refine some of those ideas as we launched it, and had commemorative bookmarkers made and some other things made to make it a special moment. But for anyone who's been talking about this, I really want to encourage you. That is just the trap that's trying to hold back your story. So if you're still talking, that shows the magnitude of the story that God has inside of you that the enemy doesn't want to release. So if you're procrastinating about it, or recovering perfectionist, like many of us here were, okay, because I would say, oh, but the I's not perfect, the T's not perfect. But then the Lord had to remind me one night as I'm crying out to him, he said, Michelle, the only one perfect is my son, Jesus Christ. Just get it done. And so as I held on to that word and said, okay, God, I trust you, and just click and go. And he took it from there. So if that's you, right, put it down. My biggest friend is my cell phone. I live by Evernote. And so when I get ideas and inspiration, I'll put it in here, record it, and then go back and write it down later. But if that's you, please use your phone. It can be your best friend to record your thoughts in the car, supermarket, along the way. And before you know it, you've got a book. It's all recorded there. And you just put the pieces together using Post-it. My baby are Post-it notes, because I can tap them and paste them around on a big poster board. But Post-it notes. And before you know it, everything that's in here, it's now out here to serve the world. So that's what I want to share with the frustrated writer who's still talking about it.
I love that. And what I love from Note Card or, your phone to capture, whatever works for you, you just need to do it. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. It's like you could be David trying to wear Saul's armor to fight Goliath, and it's too big for you. You got to find what works for you. Go out. You can learn best practices. Michelle shared what works for her. Dareth shared what works for her. I can tell you I'm a blend of everything. I have everything from sticky notes to, Post-it notes on my actual computer. So I have sticky notes on my computer, but you have to just find what works and blend it together. Find your unique recipe. So we are at the top of the hour, as my alarm just told me. But I want you guys to understand that you are with a powerhouse panel of authors. And again, Kim Thomas, me, myself, and you. Tammy Coleman, hello, is my friend. and she's also getting ready to publish her next book. Cynthia Brewer, The Jewels in My Crown. Dara Textera, Crushing Your Cravings. So I'm looking down as I'm reading, just make sure I hit all of their names and titles. So Michelle Jones, Tired of Being Stuck. Susan Bafford, Transform from Victim to Victorious. Then we have Karina Kong, Train for Joy. Stephanie Winslow, Ascent to Help. And then, of course, I have 3. Battle of Surrender is my first, and my latest and 5-category bestseller is Song of the Baron. So, you know, we have all sorts of genres in front of you, all sorts of backgrounds, all sorts of obstacles and accolades. But I'm going to tell you that we press through, and I'm calling you to rise up. I'm calling authors that are watching this, in the name of Jesus, rise up and write.
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes.
You're called.
Michelle Chudy, may I ask you something?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you tell us what's God's call on your life? What are you supposed to be doing in all of this?
Okay, great question. Boy, put me in the hot seat, make me wiggle around. Anyway, right? Okay, so for this season of my life, and that is a great question because there are seasons and there are calls and visions. For my 2019, the Lord restricted me to 2. I had at least 20 last year, if not more, and I only accomplished 1. But my goals for 2019 is I am to build up authors. I'm to raise you up. And I have also coaching clients that I'm only allowed to focus on authors and my coaching clients, and that's it. And the coaching clients, I'm to position you in your identity for where you are assigned to do with your anointing and whatever, and I'm to raise you up, train you, and send you out, and to help you learn how to fish. Basically, you know, help you do what you're called to do. And as I'm, you know, helping authors, you know, obviously the Launch Author Reveal was something that came out of a coaching call that I had, and it was literally just one person saying that, you know, I don't have anyone to interview me to get my story out. And I'm like, well, that's pitiful. I'm like, I'll do it. It's like, I know how to work the technology. So that was the birthing of the Launch Author Reveal. And I'm going to tell you that the stories that have come through, I am so humbled to be in this position that the Lord has trusted me with your stories, and the fact that you all trusted me. I'm just blown away by the weight of that and the privilege. But that's where God has me right now, is basically giving a hand up to authors. I have published 3 times. I have 2 that have hit multi-category bestsellers, new releases, and that was by the grace of God. That's not my own doing. But I will tell you this, and people that I've coached will tell you this, is that I will share what I know, and I want you to stand on my shoulders, and I want to push you higher. I call it the tank ditch strategy that I learned in the military. Is that when you're in the tank ditch and it's, you know, too high for both of you, somebody has to stand on the other person's shoulders and that help get you all out of there. So if I'm in the tank ditch, you're standing on me and we're all climbing to get out. But I expect you, when you get to the top, you pull up those that are up, or you're still down in there, and you help everyone else get out, and you help them stand on yours. So that's where I'm at on this journey. But thank you for asking that, Kim. Okay, so as we are at the top of the hour, I want you to know that this generous group of amazing authors, they're coming at you with free books. Cynthia's giving away a signed copy. Kim is giving away a free PDF ebook for everyone that's on here in a strategy session. So, and I want you also to know that these people are coming in with different skill sets and strengths, that they're not just coming in with just their authorship. They also have coaching practices as well for some of them. And they're bringing that to the table to help raise you up as well. Tammy is giving away an ebook to everyone on her Healthy Living God's Way, and then also a coaching session. Dareth is doing a signed copy and a free PDF of her ebook to everyone that's on here. And Michelle Jones is giving away 3 signed copies. And she's also giving away her commemorative bookmark. And she's giving you 75% off of Blast to Breakthrough. It's a 4-part mini course that she's offering, which is amazing. If you're stuck, you need to take this. This is where you want to break through your, like, it's the start of the 2019, you know, make it count. This is the year to rise and shine. So I want you guys to take advantage of that. Rena, as I call her, or Karina, as you know her, is giving everyone access to her master class. You get a free pass. And this is where you're going to go from strive to thrive. And you're going to crush the self-sabotage in 3 simple steps. And then she's also giving away 5 copies of her print book. Stephanie's giving away signed copies. She's giving away 2 signed copies. Susan's giving away 2 signed copies and a free coaching session. And moi, I'm giving each and every one of you a copy of an ebook copy of my first bestseller, my second book, The House of You. It's identity based. It's to get you positioned on what you're called to do, so you understand what you're wired to do. Quick read, lifetime of application. Everyone's going to get a copy of that. And then I'm also giving away a $500 coaching session. And what I'm going to do with that is whatever the Lord directs, whether it's to help you learn how to get that book out there, or if it's business-based or life coaching, I can flow whatever direction, wherever the Lord calls. So that's what I'm giving away. So giveaways galore.
Yeah.
So put your name in on Facebook. I need your email in order to get in touch with you if you're the winner. And then, of course, if you're on the Zoom webinar, you're already in. We got you taken care of. So guess what you guys just witnessed on this author forum? You just were participants, including the viewers, on a series that's getting ready to launch. So this was the first iteration. So first of all, panelists, thank you for coming on. And they didn't realize that they're kicking off a series. I told them when they actually signed on today. So you guys are breaking through yet again for 2019, because where this is going is that we're going to start a series called This Is It, How an Author is Made.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to walk you through the journey from start to finish of where you're at on that, whether you just feel that stirring in your heart, whether, you know, the book comes first or the authorship. We're going to talk about all that. But next week, we're going to do the first iteration post the panel here of which comes first, the book or the title. And what I mean is the book or the title of author. So, you know, those that are struggling with the author identity, we're going to address that. And we have author Melissa Sheehan, who is starting her first book. And she is literally putting, you know, hand to plow, pen to paper, fingers to keyboard, however, you know, any one of you are doing it out there. Melissa is just starting this journey. And we're going to bring her on next Wednesday at noon Eastern Standard Time, and we're going to talk about where she's at and how she came into the position of writing at this place in her life, because this is a new thing for her, and it's kind of scary, I mean, for first-timers out there. But I'm going to walk you through this journey, and I want you to understand what it is going to take for this marathon running woman, which is Melissa Sheehan, to take her position now at the starting block of authorship, because that's what she's actually doing. She does run marathons, like the real deal, like crazy, like multiple 20-some mile marathons. And now she's doing it on paper and on computer. So I want to capture that and bring you guys along through. So be catching this series every week. We're going to have somebody different in the process of writing. And I want you to know that if you are watching this right now and you have felt called to write, I want you to take advantage of this, because you're literally brought to the table of what it's taken these awesome authors to get through it and persevere, and you're going to glean wisdom from them and best how-tos. Take advantage of that. And then also share this with people, especially if you know someone, like we talked about, that's talked about always writing the book and they never got around to doing it. They're in that perpetual spin mode. And if they want to get them unstuck, share this, because this is to help get them out of that. Okay, so this has been the Launch Author Reveal. And again, my clock is going off that we're done. So I guess we're really done. That's the second round. But I just want to say thank you for joining in today. I just love seeing you guys on and just taking advantage of this live talk show. You get it real. You get it raw. How it comes out, if you like reality, this is reality. There's no editing when it comes out on the Launch Author Reveal. And I want to let you know that every life has a story and it's beautiful. Yeah. I want you to write yours. Arise and shine, authors. I'm calling you up, and I'm releasing my writing anointing, and I'm standing as the leader of this crew right here as the host. I am releasing a writer's anointing on you. And I just bless you in the name of Jesus to grab that pen of the ready writer. And I want you to put your hand to the plow and you stand up and write and shine for Jesus. And just God bless you all. Thank you for coming on. And we'll catch you next week with author Melissa Sheehan. And we're going to find out which came first. So bye-bye, everyone.
Thanks for joining the Launch Author Reveal with Michelle Chudy. Write a book? Get launched. Head over to launchauthorreveal.com. Every life is a beautiful story. Reveal yours and let it shine.
You could be larger than life.